Good evening. I'm Catherine Holcomb, president of St. Mary Excel. And for those of you who don't know what it is a local nonprofit that is working for community improvement. We host meetings for leaders and administrators to work across organizations to work for you, the community. I want to welcome you tonight to this St. Mary Excel facilitated community update. We want you to know that progress is being made in our area. Tonight's agenda is in two parts. The most important part will be covered by a state partner, the Water Institute. We will hear from presenters who will tell you about an arch, ARCH, the Atchafalaya River Coastal Hub Strategic Plan. But before we get started, I need to share how important this arch project is to our area. The project that you will hear about tonight is important because more than 32 entities agreed to work on pilot projects for our community, and they all agreed to be listed in the book. If you participated in any way in any of these workshops or in services, would you please stand just so you can be recognized here tonight? If you were in any of the interviews, any of the businessmen here who were interviewed or talked in a workshop. All right, Mr. Garber, I see you back there. Yes, okay. And these people here, too. Him, you, y'all are supposed to stand. Yes, y'all are supposed to stand. Y'all were involved. Yes, I know. I see them, too. Well, they put their names in the book so they can't run away. We've got it. So these entities agreed to work on the projects, and the project you hear about tonight is important because it took nearly a year to develop. We developed the project plan strategically, thoughtfully, and in a transparent manner with your local leaders and agency administrators participating. It's important because you will hear about pilot projects. Pilot projects, which sounds like a buzzword, but one of these pilot projects just got started last night, and some of the people involved may not have even known that what they were doing is an example of a pilot project. What was it? A pilot project right here in our community? When you walked in, it was posted in the back. At last night's Morgan City Council meeting, Reverend Bias made a motion to allow property on David Drive to be rezoned, allowing some resilient, fortified townhouses to be built. Listen as pilot something different, strategic plan. Please stand if you hear your name. You have to stand this time, okay? South Central Planning District presented the concept. Our local officials, probably Charlie Solar. Charlie's in here somewhere, huh? Stand up, Charlie. Mayor Duval. Where's Mayor? Oh, there you are. Okay. And Evan Boudreau received the, stay standing, received the training. Beth Price with the Chamber offered training to local contractors and realtors on fortifying your home. Stay standing. Mike Bricata led Patterson High School and Morgan City High School Coastal Club students with the help of Morgan City High teacher Leslie Smith. Up to Baton Rouge to examine a fortified house. LA House for Coastal Living, right up in Baton Rouge, which is coastal living at its finest, right? Thank you all. Morgan City Planning and Zoning Commission rezoned some property, allowing an investor here, Mayor Dragna, who is willing to put his personal dollars to pilot this new way to build homes and townhomes to withstand storm events. He has plans for 2 garden homes. Why just 2? For investors, if you build 2 pilot homes using storm-resistant construction, metal studs, etc., to prove that the business model works, and you have success, that can attract major funding for more development. For home buyers, these homes are designed to be affordable, storm-resistant, and insurable, which is a big deal in storm-prone areas. If the pilot works, many more can be built. For community and government, to test a new building approach that can supply affordable homes that can survive storms and qualify for insurance, potentially creating a replicable model for widespread development is a good thing. And the bottom line is, if we have 2 test homes, prove the concept, get big money, build lots more of the same type, that's the pilot project. That just became a reality because Reverend Bias made the motion to bring the project forward. Isn't that great? So, this arch is going to help us all realize many more pilots. There are a lot of pilots. So we here on the Atchafalaya River and the Louisiana coast and the Gulf Coast can do or not do things differently because we pilot them before we commit significant money. We hope Mayor Dragna will be available after the meeting to discuss this first pilot project in more detail. ARCH is also important because the initiative comes from our community. We have known for a long time that St. Mary Parish is right in the middle of everywhere, and we are part of many others' comprehensive plans. But in this project, we are claiming ourselves. We can bring something to the rest of the country. The Atchafalaya belongs to us. This river, which carries 30% of the Mississippi's flow right through our parish, isn't just a waterway. It's our lifeline, our heritage, and our home. We live with it every day. We understand it like no one else can. When we stand together as one community, one voice, we have the power to shape the decisions that affect our river and our future. The Atchafalaya is ours to protect, ours to champion, and ours to claim. St. Mary Parish government was a partner in getting this strategic plan completed, and we appreciate the parish's endorsement and support. In the second part of our community update, you will hear from our local leaders on projects to help grow our area. And once again, 2 parts to the agenda: a state partner, and the second part, local leaders. The facilitator for tonight's update is St. Mary Parish's Economic Development Director, Evan Boudreau, and he will take us through the items on the agenda. Once again, welcome to those of you who are here tonight and to those of you watching online.
Thank you, Catherine, and welcome to everyone tonight to hear about this exciting plan. Before we get into that, I'm just going to introduce Bo and Abby with the Water Institute. These were integral partners in facilitating the strategic planning process. What they did was they heard from the community. They took our ideas and our priorities that we, who live here in St. Mary Parish, what do we want to see from our community? And they put them into a unique, innovative, and actionable plan. So without further ado, I'll let Abby and Bo get into what this plan is and what we had to look forward to in St. Mary Parish. Bo, Abby?
Thanks so much, Evan and Catherine and everybody for being here. So as Evan said, my name is Bo Jones. I have the privilege of being the president and CEO of the Water Institute. If you've driven on I-10 East anytime in the last 7 or 8 years, you've probably seen the big building that either looks like a stapler or a spaceship hanging out over the Mississippi River. That's our headquarters there in Baton Rouge. So I have the privilege of working with this organization. This has been a great project. Really excited to dive down into the details. I'm going to zoom out for a second, right? It is quite important that we recognize that this week, in launching the ARCH plan, we're also recognizing the 20th anniversary of Hurricane Katrina and Hurricane Rita that's coming up, right? These were moments where this community, where the New Orleans community, where the entire Gulf Coast recognized that these are not esoteric concepts. These are not ideas. This is reality. The risks that we face are real. They affect our houses. They affect our livelihoods. They affect our lives. Our community recognized that very real, very, very directly 20 years ago, and many times since then, and many times before that. So this is not abstract. A strategic plan, of course, is going to be high level, but these are very real conversations. If you've been listening and reading and going through some of the conversations about the 20th anniversary of Katrina, you may remember a little part of the story that kind of zoomed this out to the international. But I want to bring it back home. So after Katrina, everybody's heard the story that the Dutch came in, right? The Dutch came in to help the city of New Orleans, and the Dutch had brought all this expertise from across the pond. And our organization, the Water Institute, we are privileged to have spun out of that moment. After Hurricane Katrina, leaders in the state and communities around said, we want to create this organization. What was this model? It was modeled after a Dutch organization, a Hurricane Katrina moment, where 50% of men, they made a critical decision. Number one, that they were not going to flood like that again. Okay, so they were going to build incredible levees. They were going to build incredible flood protection systems. They were going to have great planning, urban planning, and building standards. But they also realized, and it's important that St. Mary Excel is here, it wasn't just about being resilient. It wasn't just about bouncing back. It was about excelling, not locally, not just within their country, but internationally. So the Dutch became the world's leading expert in water science and engineering and planning, all from that moment. They took it and turned it into a significant economic opportunity. Now, that's the opportunity that exists still to this day in Louisiana and in Morgan City. So that is what this plan is about. It's not just about being resilient and bouncing back and figuring out how to navigate this storm, that storm, the next storm. It's about how do we create opportunity culturally, economically, recreationally, socially in this community from the risk that we face. Now, again, I drove in from New Orleans today. Our organization is based in Baton Rouge. This is not about a plan that we suggested this is what you should do. This is how you should be resilient. This is a plan built from this community. All we did is help structure the process and help capture the feedback. So this isn't about our ideas. This isn't Abby's ideas or Bo's ideas. Although I am a proud son and grandson of the Atchafalaya Basin. My grandmother's from Garden City. My great-grandfather ran a dredge boat in Garden City. My other grandfather's from Breaux Bridge on that side of the Atchafalaya. But I'm an outsider here right now. We work out of Baton Rouge in New Orleans. This is your plan. This is from this community. And where it goes is important, how this community picks it up. So one of the components out of this is there's physical space, there are decisions, there are planning. You will hear a lot of conversation in communities around the coast. Brian has some fantastic spaces that you'll hear about in Coquetry and in Homa. In Baton Rouge, we have built the Water Campus. You'll hear about the Nichols Coastal Center that's taking shape in Thibodaux. And it kind of feels a little bit like an episode of Oprah, right? You get a research facility, you get a lab, you get a hub, you get a, right? These are not things in competition. This is about building the fabric across our coastal zone, across Louisiana, across the Gulf Coast, so that we are all elevating ourselves first and then each other. So this is not just for St. Mary and Morgan City and the communities around here to win. It is about building those points of connection to other communities, not just locally, but also across the Gulf Coast. Catherine said it very well, right? This, one of the things that they leave out in that Dutch conversation about the Dutch being the world's leading expert. Now, this group probably knows this, but in 1953, when they had their historic flood, who did they call? It was a waterways experimentation station from Vicksburg, Mississippi, that was shipped over from the Mississippi River Delta, who had cut their teeth learning how to fight and manage floods on the Atchafalaya and the Mississippi, that went to the Netherlands to teach them what to do. This region, this basin, is where the knowledge exists and has always existed. Okay? The closer we get the planning to home, the closer we get the planning to the parcel level, the better it will be. For the last several hundred years, people have been living along the Tesh and the Atchafalaya and managing this dynamic ecosystem. But for the past 7,000 years, communities, the Chitimacha, the Cahokia, the tribes in Poverty Point have been living along this river and along these rivers and the dynamic ecosystems and learning how to balance this dynamism. That's not just important for our existential questions of whether we can live here into the future. That's important for the rest of the world. If you're in New York City right now, trying to figure out if you're getting in a flooded subway, if you're in the hills of North Carolina, if you're in the hills of Central Texas, the lessons that we have been learning and we have been honing our process for the last 7,000 years on this delta, they all want to learn. So continue to invest in this plan as you have done getting to this point. Continue to build from the parcel level up. And this is not just about Morgan City. This is not just about St. Mary. This is about sharing the lessons and the tools and the processes that you have with the rest of the world. Other than that, thank you. It's been a privilege for us to be a part of this. I'm now going to turn it over to Abby Littman, who has been one of the spearheads on our team, who will walk through the plan to talk about what it says and what work is left to be done. So thank you very much.
Thank you all so much for having me at this community update, and also just want to acknowledge my colleague Scott Hemmerling, who is for a long time with the Water Institute and now has started a new role at LSU School of Public Health. So Scott also had a huge influence on the plan in terms of supporting the structure and making sure that we had all the right folks in the room and really brought the science to it. So I just want to acknowledge Scott as well. So what is the Atchafalaya River Coastal Hub? Actually, take this out. So the idea is that it's a coastal hub that will eventually become a building on the Atchafalaya riverfront and will connect the best science to our local industry, businesses, and residents to meet the community's needs. And just want to acknowledge, we do not have a fancy building right now. We probably won't have one tomorrow or in a week. But the idea really is that a lot of the activities that are outlined in this plan, research and pilot projects, can be started before there is a facility on the riverfront. But I just wanted to acknowledge that because this is the ultimate vision for the plan. And so this is a 6-year strategic plan for the Atchafalaya River Coastal Hub. It provides recommended actions for establishing the hub and provides priority projects for the hub to coordinate and advance over the next 6 years to strengthen resilience in the parish and beyond. And I probably don't need to hammer this point home more because it's already been talked about a lot, but we all know, a lot of us know in and of itself, but the idea is that the ANIR will be a partner to the hub, and so these are two different things, but they will be partners in the future. I'm just going to flip through a couple of pages of the plan, and so I'm not going to read everything out to y'all, but this is actually available on St. Mary Excel's website online, so you can access the plan. It's available to everybody. But we have a vision for the plan, so a future in which the Atchafalaya Basin and other coastal communities facing similar economic, environmental challenges have the opportunities and resources necessary to strengthen their resilience and thrive in the face of dynamic change. And the mission is to strengthen resilience of infrastructure, the economy, and ecosystems within basin communities and beyond through innovation, research, pilot projects, and trainings. And so there's kind of two parts to the plan. One is really about the logistics, right? Like, how is this actually going to be established? Was it going to be a 501c3? Is it going to be a government entity? Ultimately, it was decided that this should be a nonprofit, a 501c3. And so this part of the plan really goes into, what should the governance structure look like? What kind of staff is going to be needed in order for this to become a reality? What are some considerations about a location and building? Like we said, the idea is to have this, great building on the riverfront. We're not going to have it tomorrow. So what kinds of things can we get started with in the meantime in order to, make the case for a building like this and make sure that it's really worthwhile? And I think it's important to think about pilot projects as being important in two different ways. And Catherine kind of started getting at this. One way is that pilot projects are important is, it brings research and researchers from all over the state to this area to work with local experts, to work with students, and so that's one benefit. But then the other benefit is testing things out before we decide to make huge investments. So those are two kind of really key elements of pilot projects. And so we have kind of three sort of categories, and there's 9 pilot projects in the plan in total. So the first category is around infrastructure resilience. So there's a pilot project around promoting resilient building and maintenance strategies. There's a project around assessing the status of energy capabilities and researching energy opportunities for a more resilient power grid, identifying opportunities and pathways for beneficial use of sediment within the parish, and this is something that, the port is really well known for already, is beneficial use of dredged material, and so thinking through how can we be more strategic to protect the parish and what are some other uses of dredged material. Then there's the economic resilience section, which has a project around researching opportunities for riverfront industry sustainability and expansion, solutions to address subsidence and support sustainable housing, and then one around expanding tourism opportunities through local research and training. And then we have ecosystem resilience, so a project around ecosystem service potential and researching that in the parish, the causes of potential decline in recreational fishing, and then assessing economic and ecological opportunities for expanding aquaculture for inland fisheries. And I also just want to say that, there might be questions around, and we'll take questions in a second, but how is all this going to happen, right? These are not projects in the ground yet for some of them that are, but there are opportunities, there are funding opportunities that have been outlined in the plan. So there's a section where the parish and St. Mary Excel can pick up, 1 or 2 of these pilot projects and think about, okay, which funding opportunities have become available first and which things do we want to fund first? And we've matched those up with different pilot projects to think about what are kind of the first opportunities for funding. And then there's also this work plan template. So this is something that St. Mary Excel is already, taken on to think about what are the first steps in actually establishing the hub. So we have the plan. This is not a plan that we want to sit on the shelf. We've invested a lot of time in this plan, and so thinking about what are the first steps that need to be taken to actually get this hub established and get some pilot projects underway. And yeah, there's time for questions, I think, too.
Hi, I'm Mike Mercado with St. Mary Levy District. I want to bring home 2 points that they talked about. This plan was not developed by the Water Institute. It wasn't their ideas. We spent, 2 or 3 meetings we were waiting on them to tell us, hey, this is what you need to do, this is what you need to do. And finally we realized we have to tell them what we want. So all the ideas that are in this came from what the community wanted. And it wasn't just me or any of these people, it was the entire community that participated in this. So it's for you, it's for the Atchafalaya community, it's for St. Mary Parish, and it's to help push us along and get us to move forward instead of standing still. If you have any questions, please ask. We're here to answer. You want to use one of these? No questions? I guess one of the big questions that I know I initially had was how are we going to pay for this? And I'm sure that's what some people are thinking. There are grants out there. There are grants through the federal government, through the state, that someone is going to get. Why shouldn't it be St. Mary Parish? Why shouldn't it be the Atchafalaya River? So keep that in mind. That's what we're going to push to get those grants to be able to move forward. One of the other things that wasn't mentioned is, we're going to utilize this hub to be able to feed information to the community. For instance, one of my big things is with the levee district, there was a project I had been working on. It was actually a solar and battery backup project. I worked on it for about 2 years and I couldn't figure it out. Even with the internet today, I could not figure it out. This hub would be a place that you could go to, and it would pull all that information. These people are going to have the information you need and lead you in a direction. If you're wanting to start a business, you want to start a small business, this hub is where you go to get the information. Hey, what do I need to do to start this business? Is there any grants out there that would help me to start this business? So it's for the community. It's for us. Use the mic.
I'm sorry. Who's gonna manage the hub itself, right? And where are the people gonna go to see this? Because municipalities basically don't have a person to do that, and or the knowledge, on some of these things you're talking about.
Right.
Some we do, some we don't. But I think there needs to be a chart somewhere with arrows that say, hey, pretty simple, right?
Right.
You want to start a business, you have to go here. If you want to know about taxes, you have to go here. If you want to build a house, you need to go talk to this person, depending on where you're at. Instead of saying just a hub, right? Unless you're going to have a person that's going to point that.
That's what we're working towards.
Okay.
And that's what's in the plan. The first thing we got to do is establish a 501c3. Then we have to establish a board to manage that 501c3. And at some point, we hope to have the funding to be able to hire an executive director and a staff to manage the hub that you're talking about. But good example that you brought up was, for instance, training. We get approached constantly about training for, city workers, parish workers, things like that, for storm waters, all the different things. Instead of, because I know if they go to y'all, you're like, we don't have time for that. We can't organize it. But we would send them to those people that are coming to them, send them to the hub. The hub can organize it. The hub could bring the different municipalities, the parish, the different agencies, all into one place so that we can get the things that we need. And you brought up building a house. Perfect example. I have been shopping for a new AC unit for my house. I have no idea about any of that stuff. What do I have to do? I have to go and do research. Okay, and there's different rebates and this, that, and the other. Whereas if you in the market for an AC unit in your house, you go to the hub, they point you in the direction. Hey, look, you get tax rebates for this. This is the better, more efficient way to go. And just to give you those options. Whereas now, even with internet, it's hard to find a lot of that information. So that's the plan, and that's the plan to, why do we need a building? Because we need a location that people can go to get that information that they need.
Yeah, I totally agree with you on that. And I think the simpler we make it, the more people want to be here, right?
Right.
Because it is difficult. Even as the mayor here, there's some questions I don't know the answer to. And that's difficult for me because most of the time I'm the one they all look at, right, to answer. And I say, hold up, I got to go ask this person. Hold up, I got to go ask that person. And on the city level, that's one thing. But on the business level, it's a whole nother ball of wax because you get the state, federal, everything else involved. And I know we advertised this last night at the city council meeting, so you probably got quite a few people watching online, which most people do. We get 20 people show up at the council meeting. We get 3,000, 4,000 people watching online. So I'm sure there's quite a few people watching. I see these couple cameras here. The question to me or anybody, or they probably answering online, is when is this going to start?
We are currently working, I don't have his plan right here.
To the point that they can use it, you know what I mean?
Well, like they said, as far as a building goes, of course, that's going to take a little time. But the pilot projects are starting. I mean, they mentioned the pilot project that y'all are working on now. The pilot projects we're doing with the coastal clubs, with the high schools. What you got?
Yeah.
Insurance?
Absolutely. On insurance, I mean, Mr. Mayor, one of the things that is obviously front of mind, obviously, storms and water and things like that, that has their risk of pushing people out of the way. But the most common thing that moves people from where they want to be or where they've been are the economics of it, whether that's insurance, whether that's, what they used to do for a living is no longer available. And so one of the things that we've been looking on with both state and federal partners is actually, if we have this current federally supported flood insurance program right now, what about communities? One thing that I think all of you recognize, but it's important to state, the state of Louisiana and the coastal zone in particular has better data, a better understanding of its risk, better understanding of its historic footprint, and the monitoring network is second to none in the world. And so when you have insurers, international companies making decisions on the 30,000 foot level, communities like this community and in larger communities like coastal Louisiana have potentially more and better data than what they're using. And so one of the projects that's undergoing is a pilot project looking at what's called parametric insurance or catastrophe-based insurance, which is, okay, we have these other insurance tools. How can we set up a system where there is a community that is taking steps deliberately to reduce its risk collectively as a community? We know what our risk is. We know where we can reduce that. And how can we create a trigger that authorizes payments out, whether it's Cat 3 storm, whether it's a certain level of water, that gets money into people's hands faster so that you're not waiting 6, 7, 8 months on an adjuster to come around when you could have been back to work, could have been patching the hole in the roof yourself, right? So that's a project that's going on right now. In terms of the building, one of the things, look, we do a lot of planning work across the Gulf Coast, working in Houston and Jacksonville and Mobile and St. Pete, in Virginia and South Carolina. Folks have attempted to bring folks from Louisiana in to figure out how we've done planning. Why? Well, back again 20 years ago, Hurricane Katrina hit. At the time Hurricane Katrina hit, there were 10 or 12 different agencies, correct my math, Brian or Scott, the agencies at the state level that were responsible for flood protection and coastal resilience, right? After Katrina, they came together, created a consolidated entity, and the first thing they did, they didn't have a dollar other than what was standard in the DOTD levy budget and a little bit of Gulf of Mexico energy resources, is they created a comprehensive master plan, the 2012 Coastal Master Plan. There wasn't a lot of money. There was just an idea and a consolidation of types of projects that we could do to push back. So plans are sometimes anticlimactic, right? Because then it's, well, now what? What we have seen time and time again, particularly whether it's federal funding, grant-based funding, philanthropic funding from private entities, that a great idea only goes so far. But a great idea that is then connected to a documented, comprehensive plan, that actually draws resources down. So you go back 2008, 2012 of the state's coastal program and the resources it was able to generate. Today, it's spending between $1 billion and $1.4 billion a year in communities like this on projects like the Bayou Chene floodgate along coastal Louisiana. All of that is because there was a plan at the beginning. So I just want to underscore what Mike said about this is, it's not a if you build it, they will come, but once you have this plan and once you have something to tie back on, not just the ideas that are in here, but new ideas, new challenges, new problems, once you tie them into a comprehensive and showing that it's got community buy-in and not one entity or this special interest group or that special interest group, but you've got community-led buy-in, that's when you can really start to marshal the resources from the state, federal, and philanthropic and private areas.
And I'll just echo the sentiment that, like, getting the community behind this plan and how important that is, especially as it relates to, what happened with the ANIR. Like, there were other options for designations, and one of the reasons I think that this community was chosen to be designated was because of the community support. Like, there were T-shirts made, and Brian, I don't know if you.
The their selection process for the state started out with 6 different potential basins, and they narrowed it down to 3 possible ones. And you have to remember this was all happening during the pandemic and coming out of that pandemic. And so we had a series of public meetings that took place as part of that process to inform people about it, try to get feedback on what things were. And one of the things that came up time and time again, talking with the folks from NOAA, the National Oceanographic Atmospheric Administration, who oversee the National Ocean Research Reserve Program, was the meeting that we held here. And I remember I was standing up at that end of this room over here, and chairs just keep coming out. I don't know where they were coming from. You guys must have like this repository of chairs that I'd never seen before. But, it started out with all these things combined. That one meeting that we had here had more people at it than all of the other public meetings so each region had 3 public meetings. This one meeting here at this location had more people in attendance at it than all of the other meetings for all 3 regions combined. That buy-in from this community has a lot to do with why the Atchafalaya was chosen to be the state selection for the NER. That buy-in is also why this program has blossomed the way it has, and this report has as much meat into it. When you started out, going to these meetings, you never know what. We all get invited to meetings that have all these different things that are there, and you don't know what you're going to get out of it, right? It's like, well, how much do I invest in this? Is this really just something that looks good on paper? But you see this, and you see people getting over maps and looking at stuff and pointing out, and it's like, you get somebody, from Levy coming in and saying, no, that's actually where this is, and getting everybody involved in that decision. It's that buy-in of this community is the strength. That's the reason why this is all going to succeed moving forward, regardless of what that funding mechanism may be. I guess I'm looking at the next page at some point, supposed to give an update on the NER itself. But I won't steal that thunder now. But, this is an unprecedented climate when it comes to funding across the board. But what it is you have a plan that's this well articulated. I don't know if I'm just too close to that other microphone or what's going on here, but the way you get the funding when it becomes limited is to have a really well thought out plan, and not just things that are one item here and one item there. Is you have this integrated framework where you can see that the sum of all these activities are more than adding up each individual part, because they build on each other. And so that's where the strength of this process is, to position this community to be able to be competitive to get funded, because you have this. It's not just how shiny that book looks like, and that's there, but it's the content and the meat that's inside of it. And it shows how integrated it is, and the fact that you had all these people participating in this process. It was pretty overwhelming to go in those rooms. Normally you go to some meeting like that where you're trying to get people together, and you're lucky if you get 15, 20 people there. But it's like the rooms were kind of overflowing with participation. But, that buy-in from the community is a lot to do with why the NER was chosen to be in this basin, and it has a lot to do with why this is going to be successful moving forward.
And that's what we're here for tonight, is to get all of your buy-in.
It's not so much a question, maybe a comment, and I'm pulling off of things that all of you have said at some point, that we may not have a building, we need the community buy-in, we need the community to support, we need to educate the community as well on our unique challenges, and that this hub would provide them with information. And y'all may have talked about this before, and I wasn't at the meetings, but what about posting a series of online workshops, especially now that we're in the midst of hurricane season, where we're going to get all the views, because not everyone's coming to the meetings, but everybody's watching online. Real life, this is what you can do to help prepare for hurricane season. If your roof gets damaged, like we went to the house, and I even picked up brochures as we walked through. If I change my roof, when I go to change my roof, I know that I need to use this particular material. and that if I end up building, I need to think about X, Y, and Z, because all of that information was available there. And then also bringing that to the students as well, because eventually, I have one here tonight, they're going to live here and they're going to make those adult decisions. So I just wanted to make that comment that, as we're working on this and before we get the building, to use that online platform and still get this information out under the name of the hub, so that way you're getting that exposure as well.
That is kind of the thoughts, is to have more of a virtual hub, that some of that information is there. And just to go off of your point as well, the information is out there. The stuff that we need, the stuff that the community needs, it's out there. But bringing it into one place is the challenge, and that's what this hub would do, is bring it into that one place. And the community support, and I have to say this, if it wasn't for 3 ladies in this room right now that have pushed this, at one point I was ready to quit, and they wouldn't let me. Catherine, Monica, Debbie, y'all are huge to this. You don't always get the credit, but if it weren't for y'all, we would not be here tonight. They work in the background, and they're very tenacious. Yeah. You might.
Okay, before, I don't know if, is it okay? All right. This is just an introduction of the plan to the community, and Ruby is way back there. Ruby Mays, she's also in St. Mary Excel, and she's worked very hard as well. But this is an introduction to the plan. This is not to come here tonight, and then when we leave today, and tomorrow we wake up, it's happening. It doesn't happen like that. It takes a plan. It takes work. It takes people working together to get it done. If you look in the book when you get it and you go online, because we do have a book. Does anybody have a copy of the book somewhere? Because I didn't. The actual book. We can't go through this book with you tonight. We don't have time for that. When you look in this book, there's an actual plan. The timeline. We've already started getting the 501c3 organized for this hub. And there's a board of directors, and it tells you who should be on the board of directors and how the board of directors operates. It tells you how much these projects cost. And it's not just about getting grants, it's also about getting private donors and private people who might want to donate. Just an example, in the pilot project that we spoke about earlier, Mayor Dragna is financing 2 houses. That's a private donor. So those things can happen as well, but we'll get moving. We just want you to understand. You need to go look at it. You need to go read this. You need to go find out about it. We're not going to explain everything to you tonight. But just like in the Urban Land Institute study in 2018, we've been working and doing a lot of things to advance what they said. And it's very hard to do those things when you don't have everybody with you. So this is everybody with you in this book. When you look at it, you can see how everybody can work together to get this done, with the board of directors, with the community, with the people who are sitting right up here. Beth, who's going to Washington, D.C. Evan's going to Washington, D.C. Brady Borrell is going to Washington, D.C. Our St. Mary Parish Chamber of Commerce, they're going to be there. They're going to promote all of these things up there as well. So when we're all doing all of those things, we can make this a reality, but we can't expect it to happen tomorrow. And we just tonight wanted you to come so that you would be interested in going find out about it. And then we're going to be, like you said, Leslie, we're going to be putting information out about what's happening. That's why we have a community update. We'll put information about where we're going, how we're what's happening, all those things. But people have to want to find out about it so that you know what's happening. You have to want to go see. You have to go look for it. You have to say, "Hey, what's happening with the arch?" We have to have that interest. And we have young people here. We've got young people. Who's young here? Hey, young people, okay, does anybody dare stand up? What? Oh, well, that is the funding.
Catherine, also mention that the plan itself was funded by federal restore dollars that came to the parish. So this is a good example of, really the first pilot was the development of the plan itself. And the idea went through a full proposal process, and the federal government looked and said this is worthy of support. So really, that's a great example of how federal funds have really come into this area to support the development of the plan.
Thank you for reminding me of that. Yes, parish government did. District 3 actually used our funds from Restore to fund this plan.
Yeah, and I think a couple other things. Number one is that, yes, there is, you will see in each of the pilot projects that there's identified funding sources and amounts. Not all of those are secured, right? But there are opportunities out there. The NEAR is an example that Brian's going to talk about of federal funding coming in. State resources, you've seen a large shift in the last year or two of a lot of the state investments, the $1.4 billion that I mentioned on coastal, and not all of that is mud and flood walls, right? Some of that is community resilience. Some of that is what they call non-structural protection. You have seen a significant shift just in the last year of state resources through the coastal planning start to shift further west. White Lake, there was a big announcement just the other day as of one parish over, but you're starting to see quite expansive investments both from the state and as the federal government. Obviously, a lot of the federal government spigots have been turned off recently, which the Franklin insurance pilot is one that was affected by that and has slowed down. But as those spigots start to turn back on and are a little bit more focused, there are really, in my opinion, some good signs for the region.
Let me just say one quick thing. We've gone to these programs the last few years. I have a feeling now. I don't know if everybody in this room has a feeling, but it's a feeling that we're accomplishing something now. We're getting somewhere. We can see something. We can feel it. So you're doing a great job. It's very important that we get out ahead and we want to be the leader in some of these programs to the other parishes. I was on a riverboat the other day when the Corps of Engineers was here, and something hit home, and we're talking about the 70-30 and the potential flow for more water. And there's a group in Mississippi and the other part of Louisiana for the other spillway going into Lake Pontchartrain. Now, I was sitting there going, how did we get so far behind? And we are behind, but we're gonna move forward. Our organization AIC is going to move forward, but we need to move forward with y'all. But it's great that y'all are doing this. It's coming at a great time, and I think we really need this. People's got to get excited about it and be involved. There was a lot of people from Terrebonne talking the other day. There was a lot of people from Lafourche talking the other day on the riverboat. There wasn't that many in St. Mary Parish. We just got to do a better job. So thank you and appreciate everything y'all are doing.
And I'd like to add to that, Mr. Roger, because if you look around, you look at Lafourche, you look at Terrebonne, you look at Iberia, everyone around us is getting the things that we should be getting. And part of that is because, like you said, they're louder. We're not loud enough. We haven't said, hey, look at us, we need some attention. I know as a levee district, we've been standing up to the Corps saying, hey, don't forget about the Atchafalaya River. It's not just the Mississippi. We have to deal with it here too. So you as a community getting a little bit louder about what we need and what we want is what's going to drive things like this home, drive the ANER home, to bring more to St. Mary. Any other questions? With that? No, not single loud. It can't be. We have to be doing it as a group that is together. Brian, I think it's your turn.
I don't have slides. I think there are slides that are made for me, though. It seems to always happen. Yes. So I'm Brian Roberts. I'm the Executive Director and Chief Scientist of Louisiana University's Marine Consortium, or LUMCON. So for those of you that don't know LUMCON, I'll just briefly say, so we are a physical entity, so we do have buildings. One that Bo alluded to. Our main Marine Center is in Cocodrie, and we, a year and a half ago, opened a new building in Homa as part of a maritime campus that we share with the community college system. But we're also a consortium of all the universities in the state. So all 20 of the 4-year public higher ed institutions. So all the schools in the UL system, LSU system, Southern University system, all 12 of the technical community colleges, as well as the 10 independent college and universities that are in the state. So part of our job is to bring things together. We're also the state host agency for the Barataria-Terrebonne National Estuary Program. And a couple years ago, we were selected after the Atchafalaya got chosen to be the state host agency for the Atchafalaya National Estuary and Research Reserve. So I was up here, I don't remember how many months ago it was, 6 months ago, something like that. Maybe it was more. I kind of feel it was a little bit longer than that because the federal landscape was a little different than it is now. There's been a lot of changes that have taken place over the last 8 months that we've been through, and that changes the dynamic, and that's why I think things like this are so important. You talk about what funding that you have in place now. That is important, but what's important is how do you sustain funding moving forward in a different landscape that we're not sure what it's going to be. Having this unified message and plan is going to pay tremendous dividends when you go after that funding, whether it be state, federal, or private dollars. These are the types of things that are needed to have that success, to help you have that voice, because now you have talking points. You know exactly what it is that you need. So where we are in the process is a little bit further than we were last time when I got up here. We basically have one piece of information that we still need to be able to provide to the National Oceanographic and Atmospheric Administration, so that way we can finalize the plan for the management plan and the environmental impact statement that we can bring it out for public comment. But there have been a lot of things that have slowed down this process. As it's happened through a lot of different federal agencies, most of the people that we were interacting with are no longer working at that agency anymore. Some of them took early buyout options. Some of them just decided they were going to leave and it was time to move on. We still have a lot of support, and there's a lot of interest in bringing this unique system into this national network. It is the true end member. There is no system this large. There's a lot of stats thrown out about the Atchafalaya River. My favorite stat is, what is the largest watershed in North America? It's not the Mississippi. It's the Atchafalaya. Because the Atchafalaya contains the Red River drainage. That water never goes into the Mississippi. So actually the watershed's larger in the Atchafalaya than it is for the Mississippi River itself. This is an incredibly important system. This is a national network of over 30 sites, and we're the last coastal state to get a National Estuary and Research Reserve. But we're saving the best for last, because it is one that's truly unique. There's nothing that's a large river delta system that exists within that system. That's created some of the challenges, because this is truly a working coast. All these things that we've been talking about, why this place is so unique. You know, most of the other NERs don't have oil and gas exploration. They don't have active dredging. That's because they're not a massive river that's a major port and has all this great activity in it. So it just takes a little bit of time to work through that process and get to where we need to get to. But we do have support. The other thing that, for those of you who follow what happens in the federal budgets, when the White House released their budget initially, the National Oceanographic and Atmospheric Administration was almost completely zeroed out. The NERS system was zeroed out. There was no money going to go to the entire system, not just any new systems. And even when the main bill passed, there was still a lot of uncertainty. Now, we don't have a finalized budget for this coming year yet, but if you go and you look at the Senate and the House bills, they've actually restored most of that. Most programs within NOAA actually have a flat budget in both the House and the Senate side. And the NERS system actually has an increase. That's very positive for us moving forward. Now, for getting the NERS started, somebody asked about, federal-state support. So the way that the NERS work, that's a federal-state partnership. It's a 2/3, 1/3 support. 2/3 of the funding, the core funding comes from the federal, 1/3 comes from the state. I have the 1/3 in the LUMCON budget. So once we get to the point where we can get the designation, we can start hiring the director and start, getting those programs up and running. So I think that's really important. So I think there's a lot of progress. I am hopeful that we're going to be able to get over this last hurdle now that we kind of know who it is that we're talking to, again, at the federal level. And there's a little bit more clarity in terms of where they are with budgets, that we're going to be able to, take the next steps. I've heard rumblings, people wondering about whether or not it was still, going forward. It is still moving forward. This is still a priority. I can tell you when I was at the regional meeting late spring, early summer, for all of NOAA's programs that were in the coastal, for the southeast region, they had me come up and speak to them about what the Atchafalaya was going to bring, and the excitement in the room throughout was really, really high. So this is something that, we're continuing to move forward. It's taken a little longer than we hoped. Well, we're never going to meet, Monica's desired timeline for anything, because she does want it to be tomorrow, waking up, and all of a sudden all this stuff is here. But once we move back, even with the delays we've had, we are still 2 years further ahead than any NER designation has happened. It may seem slow to everybody, but there has been no NER that's been designated within 2 years of where we're at. So we get anything done within 2 years, which we're well on pace to be well ahead of that. That would still be the fastest designation that's ever occurred for a National Estuarine Research Reserve. Sometimes, it's a long process, but we're getting there. Like I said, we're down to one more piece of documentation that they're looking for that we're working with the state to be able to provide, and then we can sort of move forward with that next step. So I do want to just say a couple things about this process and some of the things that Bo was talking about early on about what's unique about this state and this region. I've been here now for over 18 years. I've actually lived in 41 different places in my 52 years on this earth. But I've been in the same place here in Louisiana for over 18 years. So I've had 41 houses. My children have had one, and they're a junior and a senior in high school. So there's a lot of different, places out there, but one of the things that's just really always amazing about Louisiana is the way that people get together and they work on things. And I've seen the evolution in my time here in the way that, the different entities, we talked about, there's, you get a building over here, you get a building over here. Bo was talking about all that kind of stuff. And when I first got here in the state, I actually felt like there was a lot more of that. I think what people have realized is that, and part of it's the tragedies that people had to overcome, is the fact that when we build to our strengths and build teams together, we're unmatched in terms of what it is we can provide. And so these things are all complementary. And I think you guys are really well positioned because, you have this great plan for how to move forward. You have, a National Estuarine Research Reserve that's going to be there as a partner in this, that is already a state-federal partnership that brings together a lot of the components that you can do on that, particularly on that ecosystem side of things that's in this plan, that we can help with. So I think we're in a really good position. It's an exciting time. And basically dealing with things that are happening here that are going to be happening everywhere else. If you go around the world, over 50% of the world's population lives within 75 miles of the coast, right? We're obviously in there. We're, many places in Louisiana are actually below sea level, so we're really in the coast, literally. But that means that we're experiencing things that can be a role model for other places. Yes, we have, lots of sea level rise here. We have lots of land loss. Those are things that we're living laboratories that we can use that and leverage that to get funding, because we're going to be able to set the stage for how you deal with these situations moving forward. And this ARCH program is one that will position this parish and this region very well to be successful in doing that. And so anything that we can do at LUMCON and the NARA when it comes online to support that effort, happy to help in any way that we can. In the interest of time, so we're not here for breakfast, I'm going to stop now, but I'll take any questions you might have. Or not, which is fine too. So there's a question over there. Interact with what? How the two can interact? Yeah, I mean, this is something that we've been talking about a lot, because they're incredibly complementary. And when you're trying to think about in the future, what's a building look like, how you do this, it may be a great opportunity to sort of leverage that, so it's not like each one of those things is having to come up with space themselves. The NER doesn't come magically with a building associated with it either. But NOAA has programs to provide that you can apply for. So one of the things that's in the management plan is to do a design study for what sort of facility we might need. And then they have money, pilot money, to sort of start being able to build a building once it's designed. So, but that may be one of the funding mechanisms that contributes to a combined facility that's there. But it's more than just sharing physical space. I mean, like I said, if you look at the way that the pilot projects are divided in the plan, you've got infrastructure that's associated with that, you've got the economics, and you've got ecosystems. You have all these different things that are interrelated, and these all play a role together. So I think that there's a lot of complementarity that exists, and there are opportunities to leverage each other in terms of the support that you can have.
Now, just to keep the excitement going, we're going to go down to our second half of the agenda, which is we're going to focus on our local presenters. So, representing the Hospital Service District Number 2 is Mr. Bill Bourgeois. He serves as the Hospital Service District's legal counsel and is a St. Mary Excel board member.
Thank you. Before I begin, I want to tell you I want to be respectful of your time, so I'll be very brief. But I want to thank three of my teachers who were in the audience. I see Mr. Herman Hartman, who taught me civics. Miss Monica Bancuso, who taught me how to swim, and Miss Catherine Holcomb, who taught me English. She was a student teacher at the time while I was, I think, a senior in high school. So thank you to the teachers in the community who are continuing to be active in the community. Okay, so I'm excited to be here. We're in much better shape than we were 1 year ago. Thank you to the community for agreeing to tax yourselves for 10 years. We're going to get $3.4 million per year for 10 years, roughly $34 million. The money will be in at the end of this, the first installment will be in the end of this year, but we're already working diligently to take care of the building. So we're working with architects, engineers, and auctioneer on a plan to preserve, protect, and take care of the building for future generations. And we've got a number of projects underway. You see they're working on the front overhang. We had some cracked bricks. That's kind of a hazard, so those bricks are down now. That's going to be replaced with stucco. And we are, the building has been sealed with an elastomeric coating as sort of a temporary quick fix. We're going to be working on a more permanent fix over time in due course. But we've got a number of improvements and upgrades for equipment and for the building that are in the works. We've also started a scholarship program, and we've met with local and regional educators, ULL, Fletcher, South Louisiana Community College, and others. We've met with the school board, with Patterson High, Berwick High, Morgan City High, with the allied health programs. We've distributed scholarship information, and we're really excited about that. We've also partnered directly with Ochsner St. Mary for a medicine apprenticeship program. So that is underway, and we're working with the hospital on community outreach, and we're very excited about what we're doing now and where we're going. We've commissioned and received a provider needs assessment report that looked at our community, the demographics here, the population, the age of our physicians. It surveyed physicians and providers, and we have conclusive, very hard data that says for our community, we ought to have this many of each specialty. So we're working with Ochsner and others on bringing those services here and ensuring that we have as many services as we can have that are commercially reasonable. For example, we just entered into a cooperative endeavor agreement with an ENT group to provide additional coverage here, 3 days per week of physician services, and they're starting, I believe, this month, for the first time in many, many years, doing ENT surgeries at the hospital. So that's a big thing, and biopsies in the community, want to travel for those types of things. Anything we can have done here, we want to have done. Also, at a recent meeting, I learned that there were concerns about pediatric behavioral health. So we're starting behind the scenes working on that. We're working on women's and maternal health. Anything we can possibly do to increase services and healthcare and wellness in the community, we want to do. We want to help if we can. So we encourage you to stay tuned, stay in touch, reach out to us. If you have any questions or concerns or about services that you'd like to see brought to the community, and we appreciate your support and your trust, and we're going to keep working to do our best for the community. Any questions? Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Beth Chassaw, President of St. Mary Chamber of Commerce. You got it for me. Thank you. As you can see on the slide over here, in 2026, we'll be adopting the theme Rooted, Resilient, and Ready. It's more than a slogan, and it's more than buzzwords. It's our vision and our mission as a chamber, and it's a reflection of who we are as a business community and where we're headed together. Rooted. Our roots are what keep us grounded. They represent our history, our culture, and the values that have shaped St. Mary Parish. They are the family businesses that have withstood the test of time, the industries that have built our economy, and the traditions that keep us connected one generation to the next. Being rooted means that we know who we are and that we have a strong foundation that allows us to move forward with confidence. Resilient. Over the years, this is a popular word this evening, over the years we've faced challenges that have tested our strength through natural disasters, economic shifts, and the ever-changing demands in business. But resilience is one of our greatest assets. It's shown in the way our businesses have adapted, in the way our leaders always find solutions, and the way our communities pull together when times are tough. Resilience is not just about overcoming the obstacles. It's about turning them into opportunities for growth. And ready. Because we are rooted and we are resilient, we are also ready. Ready to welcome new investment. Ready to strengthen partnerships between business, education, and government. Ready to support innovation and entrepreneurship. And ready to ensure that our young people see a future right here in St. Mary Parish. As a part of that readiness, the Chamber will be rolling out new initiatives designed to strengthen community development, support business growth, and encourage expansion. These efforts will provide resources, connections, and advocacy that directly benefit both our businesses and our residents. If you want to go back the slide first. The image that you see here is a perfect example of this rooted, resilient, and ready spirit. This is Cabot Corporation in Franklin. one of our chamber members who truly embodies what it means to be rooted, resilient, and ready. They will be the cover of our up-and-coming directory. Their presence and investment in our parish highlights exactly the kind of commitment that sustains our community and drives growth. We're also taking this message beyond our parish. Next week, I will join Brady Borrell, my chairman, J.P. Henry, and Evan Boudreau as we travel to Washington, D.C. to advocate for St. Mary Parish at a national level. We'll be meeting with members of Louisiana's congressional delegation to ensure that our local businesses, industries, and communities are represented in the conversations that shape policy and opportunity. This is another way the Chamber is making sure St. Mary Parish is not just present, but prepared and engaged on a larger stage. We truly are rooted, resilient, and ready. It's about preparing for sustainable growth. It means honoring our past, learning from our challenges, and positioning ourselves to take advantage of new opportunities. When businesses thrive, our communities thrive. And when our communities thrive, we all move forward. So as we continue to work alongside each of you, our businesses, owners, leaders, and partners, I want to assure you that the Chamber is committed to building on our roots, strengthening our resilience, and ensuring that we are ready for what comes next. And then that leads into the St. Mary Chamber Initiative, which we just talked about, and the Atchafalaya Gateway Program. The Chamber is proud to champion the Atchafalaya Gateway Program, which is an initiative that ties directly into our vision of community development, connectivity, and growth. Atchafalaya Gateway is something that we've talked about at the last meeting. Myself and Vanessa for Morgan City and Colleen from Berwick have met and discussed, and the St. Mary XL ladies, how we can utilize the bridge once it's reopened. And we've revealed that to you guys, hopefully opening it to pedestrian traffic, bicycle traffic, and being able to, I'd say open it, close it for events so people can utilize it. Next, we have the Trail Infrastructure and Raise Grant. For some time, we've been discussing the pending $16.7 million Raise Grant that would bring major investments to trail infrastructure in our area. This grant would help us reclaim, reimagine the Atchafalaya through the Atchafalaya Gateway Trails project, linking Berwick and Morgan City, the trails and the bridge that connects them. And that's just the beginning. Communities like Amelia, Patterson, and Bayou Vista would also be able to have the opportunity to be a part of this effort, extending the impact further into the parish. With the bridge reopening, we have exciting news. Mayor Duval has confirmed that LADOTD, the bridge is projected to reopen in October of this year. Plans have already been discussed for a celebration atop the bridge, and looking ahead, we will see the bridge used monthly for pedestrian and bike access between Berwick and Morgan City, and it's a true step forward in connecting our communities in both a symbolic and practical way. And with that, I'll turn it over to Mayor Duval to share an update on a Berwick sports complex.
Thank you, Beth. Before I get started, I'd like to recognize two of my council persons who are here tonight, Mayor Pro Tem Lud Henry and Councilman Colleen Askew. They support everything we do, and without a council that works with you, it's very difficult to get things done. And hopefully it continues that way. One of the things that after coming to all the meetings and looking at our census from 2020, it bothered me a lot that we had lost people. We were, before the census, about 5,228 people. And then the census hits, so does COVID. So the census people come in, do a very short cycle. They work here 14 days and come up with a figure of 4,700 whatever. It really upset me. I felt like it was our time to grow, that we would become a city. So we took the numbers that we had been getting from people that come in and get gas and water and sewer, and all those numbers with the ones that we already had in place put us over 5,000, exactly 5,002. And we're cutting it kind of close, but we contacted the governor about possibility of becoming a city due to the numbers and the numbers that were given from the Department of Treasury to the governor's office. So that's still up in the air. It's never come back and hit us in the face. So we're still waiting on that designation, even though the Louisiana Municipal Association has recognized Berwick as a city and not a town. So we feel good about that, but we still don't have that designation from the governor's office. But it made us start working, trying to come up with some things that would, why do people leave here? They leave here because of no jobs, no recreation, or there's just nothing to do. Well, you know, we heard all of those stories, and I know y'all have heard all those stories. So we started working on recreation. We built over 20 pickleball courts throughout our town, indoor, outdoor, under the bridges. We put them everywhere. And we want people to get up the couch and go outside and do something. And we think the same way for our children. We've had an architect do a drawing of the Civic Center of a plan that we have to improve the recreation at the Civic Center. And we applied for a recreational grant to do those things. I think the pictures up on the wall, and to give you an idea about what you're seeing there, we've got, I think, 8 soccer fields. We take care of all the soccer in St. Mary Parish and Assumption Parish. And there's another one. I think Iberia Parish send people over here to our soccer field. And they play soccer on Saturday mornings. If you've never been over there, you got to go take a look at that. There are a lot of people there with their kids playing soccer. Parking's always a problem. We've improved that. We're going to put a road around the Civic Center where cars can get in and out of there without, all the parking. That's going to be an NFL flag football. It'll be something the kids I know are going to like. And there's just a lot of things, new concession stands, new bathrooms. We're trying to get that funded right now as we speak. We've been very fortunate as far as grants go. I certainly didn't do it by myself, but I did have the help of Mayor Dragna. Thank you for Hannah. She helped me out a lot, and certainly got me going in the right direction. And Mike, thank you. We had a flooding problem in Berwick where the Country Club Estates flooded. We had about 40 houses got water in them, but 28 of them actually got serious water in them. So there was a problem. So we applied for a grant through DOTD, and lo and behold, we got it. And to improve the drainage system that we have, they just completed it. Within 2 months, they just finished it. Actually, we had some money left over, and we've got sheet piling down in the little canal there where the drainage canal is, and it looks real nice. we've added some under critical infrastructure, 3 new 30-inch natural gas pumps for pumping water out of Berwick. We've improved our drainage system where we don't have any more flooding. One of the things talking about the bridge and lighting the bridge and walking across the bridge, we applied for a grant with DOTD for lights to light the bridge. Now, I don't know if we're going to have enough money from it, but it was a dual grant. We applied for either give us money to light up the bridge or give us money to light up the walking trail. We'll take either one. So we submitted it that way. We're waiting on a response right now. But we're going to get one of them, I'm fairly sure, to improve either the walking trail at night where you can go out and walk, or either we'll light that bridge up. So we're looking forward to one of the two. Any questions? Colleen, you do our Facebook. Is it, or do you know? Okay, we'll get it. We'll get it on there where you can take a look at it. That's my fault. We'll correct that. Thank you. Questions? Anybody have any questions? Okay, thank y'all.
How y'all doing? I'm just short. Ms. Monica asked me to speak. I can't tell her no. So I'm here representing the Shrimp Petroleum Festival. Obviously, it's the 90th year. We got some pretty cool new things this year. We actually have a helicopter tours. We got 2 stages, one under the bridge, and obviously the regular stage in the park. It's not going to rain all weekend. We checked the weather, no rain, just that little bit we had last night. So we're good. Fireworks will definitely be a lot better this year. I mean, always great, but being the 90th, we added a lot more funds to it this year, so it should be a lot nicer. Ribbon cutting tomorrow at 5:15 under the bridge. Please come out. We got all the parish royalty, and they'll be out there, so we should have a good crowd there. Blessing the Fleet the Sunday and Mass in the Park Sunday. And we're bringing back the shrimp cook-off Saturday on Front Street at the wharf. They start at 9 o'clock. We give them 5 pounds of fresh shrimp off the boat, and they got to have it ready for 2 o'clock that afternoon, and then we get kings and queens of judging that. Any questions on the Shrimp Festival? I'm going to switch hats real quick, and I'm going to make 3 people very excited in this room. We talked about the RAISE grant, and I'm like, it's not happening, it's not happening, it's just on Trump's desk, it's not happening. The mayor doesn't even know this yet. I got an email today, and I called the guy to make sure it wasn't a wrong email. The guy with the Federal Administration of Highways. We are meeting with them probably in the next 2 weeks, in-person meeting. The grant is moving forward. The $16.7 million. So that is a grant that Ms. Monica and Ms. St. Mary Steph have been working on forever. Hannah got a hold to it. Juiced it up a lot, and we got it. She put it in 3 years ago, and it finally came through. So very excited about that. There'll be more updates on that. It's just, like I said, it just came through a little while ago. So thank y'all. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm Charlie Solo Jr. I'm the current president of the Shrimp Petroleum Festival, but I'm also the chief administrator under Mayor Dragnet for the city of Morgan City. Yes, it's a helicopter that's fly Bama. They fly over Gulf Shores and Orange Beach, and I ran into them at the LAF convention in Baton Rouge a while back, and I was like, how can I get y'all here? And he's like, well, just tell us you want to come. So that's kind of how it happened. They're going to land at Shannon School, and they're going to take off and do little short tours over the festival and over the area. So yeah. It's $40 a person. It's like three men from 3 people can fly at a time. So yeah, pretty cool. Yeah. Thank y'all.
Also, the history exhibit, too.
Oh, I'm sorry, yes. Ms. Grieg's gonna fuss at me. I am so sorry, Ms. Grieg. Ms. Grieg Chauvin took her time to do this. I'm sorry.
I was asked by Carrie Stansberry to do a 90th anniversary exhibit. It's at Far Chapel, 10 to 5 over the festival weekend. It's very interesting. A lot of stuff there. A lot of history.
It's very, you need to go see it. It's amazing what this lady has did with the history of the shrimp festival. There's one other thing we're doing that doesn't really pertain to us, but if you got any visitors that come, we have buses picking up people from the hotels and the lake and park. That's going to, from starting Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, just keep shuttling people so we can keep people from not drinking and driving, and the parking be a whole lot easier. Good question. I've had that question 14,000 times in the last 48 hours. Every news people in the world is asking me about that. Obviously, there was a big stink about that the last year. They came there. We didn't know they were here. And we trying to support the local industry. We're not trying to hurt the local shrimpers. We all know we love it, but the supply obviously outweighs the demand. We all shop at Amazon, so we all kind of guilty of buying out of state, out of country products. But we do have this year, you have to have domestic shrimp. We do have a few vendors bought some shrimp off the boats. So we told them, we gave them a list of which stores and who can buy, where you can source domestic shrimp. So we are looking forward to that. In fact, Channel 2 is doing, and three out of Baton Rouge and 2 out of Lafayette is doing interviews tomorrow. It started at 5 o'clock in the morning, and it's mainly about the shrimp. So yeah. Just domestic is United States caught shrimp, but like Gulf America shrimp. Yeah. So last year there was few. I mean, there's some of them that they package them here, but they come from out of the country, so that's not technically domestic shrimp. Yes, we gave them a list of all the shrimp of the local boats. Bad news is the shrimp has been this run has been pretty small, and it's still nice shrimp, but not the for balling. It's not really. I just got a picture of one of the boats. Miss Mama D came in about 20 minutes ago with about 2,000 pounds of shrimp. So we are trying to promote them. It's a business. We can't make them buy their shrimp from our local guys. They still got to make money. But we do we do check them. We're going to check their invoices to make sure that they are buying at least domestic shrimp. So. There is a way to test it. Actually had a phone call with that man about 2 hours ago. There's some type of testing they're doing. I've never seen it right hand. He's never came down here and show us. He's actually here. But he doesn't have his testing equipment to test them. Surprisingly, last year he did when he came undercover to test them. So, but there is some kind of, we can test anything in the world now, so I'm sure they can figure out where the shrimp is. They can tell by the diet of the shrimp or where the shrimp came from is what they tell me. He's got a website that tells you a lot depth and depth. I've never seen it in person. So, yeah. Thank y'all.
Thank you.
All right, so now that we are about to close out the night, if there are any more last-minute question and answers or questions for any of the panelists, now's the time to do so. All right. Craig?
So a couple of weeks ago at the Joint Chamber Luncheon, Senator Kennedy mentioned that there is a group of them trying to get Flood 2.0 reversed or changed. Are you familiar with any of that?
Not yet. We haven't heard anything that's indicated that anything's going to change. We're continuing to figure out ways, I'll say, to combat it. One of the first things we did, risk rating 2.0 came out. We looked at the changes to people's flood insurance rates here, and they were dramatic. And the first thing I thought was, something's not right. They pull their information from the National Levy Database. So I did a deep dive in the National Levy Database, noticed some pretty big discrepancies as to what was in that database and what's actually on the ground and what protects the people of this community. And went to the Corps and said, hey, we got to look at this again. None of this is right. So we have probably over the past 2 years been doing a reevaluation of our entire system to make sure what's in National Levy Database is the correct information. So that's where we've started. As far as what goes on in Washington with FEMA and risk rating 2.0, we were involved in a class action lawsuit against FEMA, but we kind of got kicked out of it because we didn't have standing. We didn't have anything that was coming against us. I don't know where that lawsuit has gone since then. It's kind of been quiet on it for probably about a year.
The risk rating 2.0 is actually something that's on our agenda to speak to delegation about in DC. One of the bigger agenda items, actually.
Didn't ask, but I'll give you three little whips on that. Not about risk rating 2.0 and the policy about it, but within risk rating 2.0, there a team that we have that's a lot of the work is happening in St. Mary Parish is looking at three angles on the insurance conversation. The first is, with the existing system, let's assume risk rating 2.0 stays as is, what are the ways that we can improve the outcomes for communities? So we've actually pulled in some federal resources, and we're doing pilot projects across the coast. The one that's the furthest along is in Ocean Springs, Mississippi, looking at what questions you can ask from a parish or a community level, what questions you can ask on the early stages of permitting to improve your outcomes under risk rating 2.0. So that pilot project is going on right now, and be happy to, if all of you can have our contact information, happy to share as those outcomes come out. The second prong of this is, okay, assuming the first is risk rating 2.0, let's assume we're in the system. The second is, as Mike just pointed out, there are definitely areas within around coastal zones where what used to exist under the old system has been tossed out, like map adjustments, things like that are not as prevalent or not as available. And so we're working on a pilot project. It was just featured in a recent insurance article in Graveline Bay, so Dauphin Island in Alabama, where there was a marsh creation project that was built. The community was asked, can we, as FEMA, can we reduce our insurance rates? And the general theme was, we'll go talk to your agent. And so we're actually going house by house, working to try and figure out what those agents are saying, what the feedback is from map adjustments that should be there, from changes to building a marsh or as Mike was pointing out, new flood walls or different levee situations. And then the project that's happening right here in St. Mary that we have started in Franklin, Louisiana, is looking at how you operate outside of that system. Is there a way for communities, starting at the parcel level, to bound together with the information that they know about their flood risk and about their ability to prepare for and bounce back from the storm? So that's a kind of three prongs of insurance that we're working on right now, and I'd be happy to share or put any of the community leaders, council members, the mayors in touch with our team with it's called the Community Resilience Center at the Water Institute, and we have team. I think some of them will probably be at the festival this weekend. So.
Good. Thank you, Bo. All good. I can't think of a better way to spend a Wednesday night than talking about insurance. So, unless you go to the parish council meeting. So, any more questions?
Thank you. Part of our recreation is we were approached from the Generation 2000 with some kids from Berwick High who wanted to put handicap accessible playground at one of our parks. I say one of our parks, which brings me to what I really want to do is thank Mr. Roy Garber for letting us use the park for this handicap accessible playground. We appreciate it, Mr. Roy. Yeah, well, they fit in there somewhere. I don't know. No, he's been generous enough to let us, make some changes out at the park, put some handicap accessible playground equipment, and we just trying to get all the funding and stuff together and to make it work. But again, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Last call. Any more questions? No. All right, so on behalf of St. Mary Excel and all of our speakers and partners and others, we'd like to, we would ask you to share and like the presentation that was recorded tonight by our partners, Greg, Howard, Chris. Thank you so much. And we definitely want to thank Mr. Jones and Abby for traveling from New Orleans and Baton Rouge to be with us tonight and explain the exciting work that's happening in St. Mary Parish. Last ask is for everyone to go to St. Mary Excel for Arch updates and updates on some of the other important initiatives. If you check under your chair for a post-it note, you can turn that in for a copy of the Arch Strategic Plan book if you'd like one before you leave. Without further ado, have a good night.
Thank you all so much for having me.